High-tech engines need high-tech oils.
Welcome back. It's great to have you with us on Speed Week. We travel to Queensland now for the biggest event of the drag racing calendar, the Winter Nationals. There were record-breaking performances and constant heart-in-mouth moments as Australia's best put everything on the line.
Last year at the Fuchs Winter Nationals, Ben Bray took away John Zappia's chance of entering the finals.
Could Ben Bray spoil this party? Oh, he's got the advantage. That's a shocking reaction time for Zappia. And Bray's going to do this.
We top qualified last year with a 575. And all year we've been trying other stuff and it hasn't quite gone that quick, so we've put the car back to as close as we can to see if we can get it to run 570s all weekend.
Well, I told the boys at work if I win this meeting I won't be home for like probably Thursday, Friday. I've never won in Queensland. It's like it'd be great just to get that monkey off my back. I've had so many chances here and I've just blown them. I don't know, I don't know what happens here.
We want to win it for Fuchs, win it for ourselves. We need to do that to catch up to Peter. And, you know, there's 2 events left after this one, so we just need to make all 3 count.
Pro Stock motorcycle rider Morris Allen is in town and he's keen to take home that elusive Christmas tree.
The Winter Nats is always one of the biggest marquee events of the year, summer. Like, to come to the Winter Nats it's the dream to come here and, you know, go away with a gold Christmas tree. The conditions are always ideal, particularly for our style of bikes. And, you know, we just look forward to it. It's just such an important event on the calendar. Great crowd, a big event, and, you know, it's a chance to really use all the horsepower that you've got.
It's very important to us this year. Like, we're leading the championship. We're hoping to come away with a few more points this year. We won the event last year, so we know we can do it. We overpowered the racetrack yesterday, unfortunately, but, you know, it's an important meeting of the years.
And if Pro Stock Bike and Top Door Slammer isn't enough for you, the Comp Bike and Super Compact gang are out to quench your thirst for speed at the Fuchs Winter Nationals. So we're here preparing for an epic coverage of the 2013 Fuchs Lubricants Winter Nationals, and they've come from far and wide to be part of the action. Here are the points for Pro Stock Motorcycle after 3 rounds of competition, and it's a heads-up battle between Luke Crowley, Morris Allen and Lockie Ireland. Scott White is in there with a chance, so too is Glennie Wooster, Mark Hancock, Chris Manera and Peter Cochran only in that top 8 position. Just look at this fat crowd here to enjoy the action at the Fuchs Winters. Plenty of colour, plenty of glamour as we prepare for Pro Stock Motorcycle qualifying session number 1. Rusty Gregory outrolls the Pegamore's entry.
Yeah, that would be Peter Cochran. Fantastic looking bike. He's ridden a lot of different bikes in his time. He's ridden one of the few guys to have ridden a Buell in this class in Australia. He's up against Phil Howard, another guy who has ridden just about everything and anything. Probably best known for his exploits on Top Fuel motorcycles, funnily enough. He is a Nationals winner, a Gold Christmas Tree winner on Top Fuel bike. But obviously running the Kawasaki this weekend in Pro Stock bike.
About to pop the visor down, some last minute adjustments to that. It still looks pretty cool, as much as you can be when you're about to unleash one of these bikes. So it's Peter Cochran and Phil Howard. Howard furthest from our screen, closest to the Fuchs sign in the left-hand lane.
Big red light for Phil Howard. Doesn't make too much of a difference in qualifying, and looks like problems on both sides of the track there. Really not going to be a representative pass, but the good news for Phil Howard, he had some serious problems in Sydney at the Nitro Champs a few weeks ago, and he didn't even get the bike off the start line. So to cross the finish line, that's a small victory in itself for Phil Howard.
Just watching both the guys leaving reasonably hard, but then shutting down early for both guys. So unfortunately for Cochran and Howard, they're doing nothing that's going to give them a great deal of confidence. The good news is they still have 3 more qualifying sessions to work with. Glenn Wooster, the Wheelie Waste entry out of Warrnambool in Victoria. Wheelie Waste, a great iconic sponsor from that region, alongside the Dreamland Trailers entry of Mark Hancock. Qualifying session 1 of 4 here at the Fuchs Winters for Pro Stock Motorcycle.
A little bit of a stutter off the start line for Worcester, but way over near the wall. Oh, that's going to be a problem for Hancock. Pulls it back into the centre. Great ride job for Hancock. Goes into the 796, just a tick over 271 kilometres per hour. 8.25 for Worcester. The bike really had a bit of a stutter off the start line. Not what we've come to expect from Glenn. He's become quite a consistent performer over the last few events, but you can see really good ride job for both riders there.
Considering how far out of the sticky stuff for how long Hancock really was on that run. If you've never walked on a quarter mile before, the stickiest part of it is right down the alleyway, right down the centre. You get outside, you're still going to get drive, but nowhere near the grip that you get through the centre. As always, the Lucas Oils bike looks absolutely immaculate. The number 1 plate holder here, Lockie Island, closest to camera.
He's up against Scott White from the Northern Territory. Oh, again, big problems. His start line is really catching out a few of these riders. It is very, very tight, but the tuning window is very, very narrow. How's that for Scott White? 7.49 off the trailer, 288 kilometres per hour. That is a fantastic run.
He would be absolutely spewing that wasn't an elimination, because he just would have taken care of the number 1 man right then. You just saw Lockie had all sorts of trouble, almost got the bike a bit unsettled as well. It bogged down off the line. Morris Allen, Mr. Immaculate, the M18 Fuel Milwaukee Power Tools entry. This new bike just looks incredible, and Morris is starting to get his head around it as well.
Yeah, really is Mr. Professional, but he's up against the man who's really been setting the pace this season in Pro Stock Bike. It is Luke Crowley. Very, very nicely presented bike this, but this is a big problem. First qualifying session, it looks like they might be shutting off the bike.
And that's not what you want. You want to at least get a couple of numbers on the line, and he just indicated to the officials then the Nil Rust entry needs a couple of minutes here, or at least a little bit of time to get himself settled. Just look at this crowd. It's the biggest drag racing event in the Southern Hemisphere. Morris is going to go on his Pat Malone, sitting right back on the bike when it left the line. This looks pretty strong for his opener here at the Fuchs Winters. A 7.46 with an 8 will do just nicely on your opening pass with 288.74 kilometres an hour. Quickest run we've seen so far.
I love the flame coming out of the pipe as he cruises down the braking area as well. Just a picture-perfect pass there. Probably not as quick as what we've come to expect from Morris, but still a good representative run, gets him into the field. Now, we've got this man, Rhett Lockheed. Beautifully presented bike, this. He's an Australian who calls California home these days, and he has actually ridden this bike in NHRA Pro Stock Bike competition.
Great to have him back, and it's really a measure of the appeal of this bike, isn't it? Just spectacular. The Serco Motorsport Springwood Suzuki entry. And let's see what Rhett has got in store for us. Comes into this as a wild card.
Yeah, he really is. Last time we saw him was the 2009 Winter Nationals, a long time ago now. Leaves a red light hanging on the tree. Look at the ride job. That bike was laid right over. That's going to cost him a bit of ET. Through the finish line. Oh, that is a huge run. 7.12, 305 kilometres per hour. That is a huge run.
And it didn't look overly pretty, Rusty, I got to tell you. It wandered a bit, had a bit of a wriggle up in the front end around half track. He really had to hang on to that thing. 7.1, that's not too far outside of 6 to make an obvious comment.
No, it is not. And that's actually over the national speed record as well, I might add. 189.55 miles per hour. That is huge.
Welcome back, Rhett. Here's Phil Howard, the Nightmare Designs entry. What a beautiful looking bike. The ND Racing entry. This is qualifying session number 2 right now. As we get set to see what the boys can come up with.
Pair of Kawasaki's on the track now. Looks like a better run this time around for Phil Howard.
Shuts it down.
Yeah, just moved over towards the centre line there, and I think discretion being the better part of valour. And an 8.38, 175. It's enough to get him into the field for the time being, but we've got a really tough field here this weekend.
Nothing special for Cochrane. Problems for Pete. He hardly got the thing off the line. And you see him looking down with issues. Again, a big wander towards the centre line. That might, in fact, be why he shut it down. It was heading towards the timing boxes in the centre. The Dreamland Trailers entry is back. It's Pro Stock Motorcycle time. Qualifying session number 2 of the 2013 Fuchs Lubricants Winter Nationals. And the boys having a bit of a look down here as well. Is there problems? The Dreamland Trailers entry. Maybe it's more of a Nightmare Design entry than a Dreamland trailer bike.
Well, the interesting thing, you see when the rider and the crew are looking down at the gauges, more than likely what they're looking for is oil pressure. If they don't have oil pressure or sufficient oil pressure, they're not going to send the bike down there because it can do a lot of damage. Now, your number 1 plate holder, reigning national champion Lockie Island, will go on a solo pass. Still can't get that bike off the start line cleanly. Really riding that thing like a bucking bronco, but cleans it up at the top end of the racetrack. 781 though, not really good enough by their standards.
No, but I mean, main thing at the moment is just to get some numbers that'll safely get you some sort of confidence into the show. Man, that thing left the line like a speedway motorcycle, leaving the tapes just then. You almost had to just feather the throttle to keep the thing, and the clutch to keep the thing pointed down on the ground. Glennie Worcester is back in that wheelie waist entry. Glenn ran an 8.25 with a 4 in his previous run. He'll certainly want to get into the 7s as best he can. Very important that you set the onboard camera on the wheelie bar. You notice that?
Well, it's amazing how much you would learn from that. These bikes launch very, very violently, and there are little things that you can pick up by watching the tape back that you may not pick up by looking at it with the naked eye from the crew members from standing behind. Scott White, you can see the visor just starting to fog up. That's just what you want at 190 miles per hour, isn't it?
7.49 with a 9 was his previous. Both guys are very quick on the tree. 0.06 lights as we go. Would be a good drag race in an elimination sense. Both boys going to be pretty happy with that. A 7.44 with a 9. Can he shut that thing down?
Well, he's really, really struggling there. He was a little bit late getting that bike pulled up as he crossed the finish line there for Worcester, and you can see really good ride job on both sides. Oh, really laying that thing over for Scott White. The back of the bike moving around. Who says this drag racing caper's easy?
What a great drag race that would have been in an elimination sense. Crowd here really enjoying this second session for Pro Stock motorcycle qualifying as Momo, Morris Allen, Mr. Immaculate, arrives for duty. Him and his dad, just inseparable when it comes to this. And I've got to say, drag racing across the board, there's Dad right there, is very much a father-son, father-daughter, mother-son, mother-daughter combination. It's a real family game when it comes to competition.
Brother-sister as well. We've even got father, son and daughter racing in Pro Stock this weekend. It really is a family deal. Rhett Lockheed on that bike. We've already seen him go over the national record for speed this weekend in the first qualifying session. He can back it up and take the national record here. He's got the opportunity, and not a bad way to do it on your first 2 runs back in the country.
Fairly handy light to a 0.05 light. Nothing in it. Again, this would have been an awesome elimination. Both guys running very solidly. A 7.31 for Morris. That pushed him to be better, I think. A 7.14 again for Lockheed. So a 7.1 for him. I think that really made the Momo bike step up then.
Yeah, he did. And, you know, having the calibre of this sort of bike in the country with Rhett Lockheed, it is going to make the rest of the competitors step up. We've got a very, very good field in Pro Stock bike this week, and you can see the guys really working hard to get those bikes pulled up. But as I was saying, you've got a really good field, a committed field, and a lot of guys that are running the full series this year in Pro Stock bikes. So it's only going to make the competition just step up that extra notch.
You'd be filthy if you lost at 7.31 on any other day of the year. So see Luke Crowley, the Ipswich Tint Works nil rust entry. Pro Stock motorcycle, very exciting category in Andretti Drag Racing Championship action. We're here at the Fuchs Winter Nationals. He promptly rolls in with the Fuchs lubricant sign right in behind. Great shot down low. Look at the width of that rear tyre.
Yeah, very, very tough looking motorcycle, this one. Luke had problems in the first qualifying session, as we saw earlier on. Oh, big moment for Luke Crowley. Gets really close to that centre line. This run is obviously going to be a throwaway, but that thing just spun the tyre hard and did a very good job of trying to throw him off it.
I tell you what, it wasn't much prettier at the other end of the quarter mile either. A 9.53 is not representative of that man's talent, but this was a huge burnout. You're not supposed to do burnouts in your run.
That is about as sideways as you will ever see a Pro Stock bike without the rider coming off it. That is an incredible ride job for Luke Crowley.
Expatriate Aussie Rhett Lockheed has managed to make quite a successful living and live the dream through his love of motorcycle racing.
Since mid-90s, I've been working on motorcycles, building engines. I got into some race teams. I did World Superbikes in Europe and all over the world. And then I came home for a couple of years. And then in 2004, I went over to the States. A guy asked me to go with him as his crew. I went over and haven't left since. Yeah, America's pretty good. I'm in Australia at heart, always. But I do love living over there in America. I'm in a really good place, a great place to live. I work for a great company, Yoshimura Suzuki. We do road racing over there for work, and when it permits me, I can do a bit of drag racing, you know, it's my hobby. The racing standard is very high. I mean, I've been to 5 events, NHRA. I haven't qualified yet. I've come very close. But we've struggled with some parts with the engine wise and that, and I only get to ride it maybe once a year because I can only do what fits in with my work schedule. But now this year, you know, and late last year, I started to develop my own crankshaft for the engines and cam chain, stronger cam chain system, which now is giving the engine reliability. So I can actually ride it more now and do some testing, and looks like we've got not a bad combination. I'd like to reset the ET record, which is at 7:09. I'd like to reset that, at least run a low O, like a 7:04 maybe. A 6-second pass is a dream. It'd have to be pretty perfect pass. I'm not sure if I could get that. But I'd be happy to walk away with like an 04, 05 with both ends of the record. And I'd like to win the event as well. These things are so fragile though. You know, every time you start them, they're nearly wearing out. They're terrible things. But if it holds together, and I think we work out a little piece at a time, I reckon we could achieve a 7-0, yeah.
Isn't it great to have him back in the country? Talk about living the dream. And you were saying too, Rusty, his transporter and workshop rolling situation, pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a borrowed unit this weekend, but still a very, very cool deal. Hopefully we get to have a look at that a little bit later on. But here we've got Lockie Island, and it is Scott White from the Northern Territory. Both blokes look like they might have rolled out of it at the top end of the racetrack. Only highlights though, not really representative runs for either race. A 7:73 for Ireland, best run of the weekend for him. Here's Pete Cochran.
Still would have been a great drag race. That's the thing. We've seen 3 qualifying runs that would have been absolutely barn burner eliminations. Momo Allen right alongside Lockie, not out of the line quite as smartly, but coming home like an absolute rocket, even out of the groove. That thing of Lockie is like a Lockheed.
Oh, that's incredible.
Like a Lockheed Blackbird.
Another 7.1 second pass. He has really stepped the notch up this weekend for Pro Stock Motorcycle Performance. Reset the national record. Oh, Worcester with big problems off the start line. Phil Howard on his first full run of the weekend. Got to be happy with that. Howard goes through 7:36 for Phil Howard. That's a pretty impressive run from the Kawasaki.
These guys getting something akin to tyre shake. It seems like everyone really sticking down on the line, and it's quite a violent ride. Lockie Island desperately trying to lock something decent down. A 7:55 with a 2. And the guys just trying to get another strong 7-second pass in.
Yeah, Scott White and Pete Cochran. Looks like neither rider really got off the start line the way that they wanted to. And another pair of 7-second passes. Final pair of qualifying runs now. It is Momo Allen up against Rhett Lockheed. Really bouncing that thing off the start line for Lockheed.
Had to twist the grip for the second time there too. Actually had to get out of it and then get back on it. Pretty strong run for Momo though. Morris Allen responding with a 7:37. He's been consistently in that 7-3 bracket. Lockheed is quickest, a 7-1-2. That thing's still got smoke coming off it. Allen second. Howard, White, Worcester, Cochran, Island and Hancock. Your Sid Chrome ladder for qualifying looked very exciting, and tragically the rain fell down and cancelled our eliminations events. Man, it was going to be, as you would say, a mouth-watering elimination.
It promised to be an absolutely huge weekend, probably one of the best that we've seen from Pro Stock Motorcycle for a long, long time. But unfortunately, the gods had other ideas and they rained on our parade.
There's the points after the 4th round. There were some qualifying points that were to be gained from all that. Crowley will lead by some 29 points over Morris Allen, Lockie Island and Scott White, Glenn Worcester, Mark Hancock, Peter Cochran jumping up a little, and Manera back there in the top 8. We're dropping into the pits ourselves to strip the motor, and when we come back, we've got awesome action from Competition Bikes, Super Compact and Top Door Slammer, baby. Aeroflow Sportsman Drag Racing Championship stepping up a notch at the hello ladies, the Fuchs Winter Nationals here at Willowbank Raceway, and just look, I say look at that crowd. Time to step a little sideways, and I don't mean on the racetrack, I mean in terms of its configuration, but Super Compact, a class that is very dear to one Ben Braceheart as well.
Yeah, indeed it is. This is Robert Rigoli, believe it or not. This Mitsubishi, 4 cylinders, and it has run deep into the 6-second zone. This time around, 696, 201 miles per hour. This car is an absolute weapon.
Speaking of weapons, you just got to love this little ute, doesn't it? Absolutely rock. This is highlights of the 2nd round of qualifying for Super Compact. Oh, hello. Doesn't get any cooler than a Herbie on roids.
It does. This is Neil Penboss in the Volkswagen. Few problems getting the thing off the start line, but yeah, look, just shut it down before the finish line there. Not really what he would have been looking for, but still a few more rounds of qualifying left to come for these guys.
How on earth do you focus on the job at hand? It's time now for the third qualifying session as Chris Tate rolls out in the Good Times Racing entry, the Money Pit across the front. Super Compact Racing has its own underground and cult following across Australia, Rusty.
It does, and it's becoming increasingly popular, you got to say. Big technology in these classes. We see everything from 4 cylinders to rotaries to 6 cylinders to turbochargers. Pretty much everything you can think of, it's in this class. It is, I guess they call the high-tech class, but you don't want to limit yourself to that. Now, this looks like problems to the little 6-second bullet over on the far side of the racetrack. Robert Rigoli has got problems in that 4-cylinder Mitsubishi, and it looks like Tate's going to be going on a solo pass.
The 770 handicap. We're watching the Aeroflow Sportsman Drag Racing Championship. Great support from Aeroflow throughout the year. They do have some stout race cars in this field. Unfortunately, just the solo pass, as you said, for Tate. Let's see how the Money Pit gets down the racetrack on this solo pass. Third round of qualifying for Super Compact here at the Fuchs Winters.
These cars sound so wicked in stage. Oh, big flash of flame as it came up on the two-step. And smoke is bad. Once you let the smoke out, it's very hard to put it back in.
It's just crawled to a grinding halt, and you never want to see that as a race official. The boys, look, they were picking up bits and pieces in the back of the car then as well. And it coughed an enormous amount of flame out and then smoke. So problems, unfortunately, for Tate. There's really a wide variety of race cars here this weekend in this super compact class.
There is indeed. You talk about Damien McKern, former national champion in this class. The rotary-powered little Mazda, very tough car, this one. You can see huge burnouts. It's one thing they do love in this class is their big burnouts.
Extremely short wheelbase too. You would think that they'd be a fairly twitchy proposition and certainly fly those front wheels a fair bit as well.
Twitchy is probably the understatement of the day. This car in particular goes very deep into the 8-second zone at over 160, 170 miles per hour. And you got to think, with a nice high centre of gravity, short wheelbase, these things are an absolute handful.
She's over this way, fellas. Looking the wrong way. Oh, to be that age again, Rusty. Here is McKern. Beautifully turned out racing deal this is for sure. Very high centre of gravity in this car as well. It really does sit up on the rubber, so it's got everything going against it in terms of how it should perform, but he squeezes some impressive performance. The McKern and Associates Chartered Accountants. That also flies in the face of going drag racing. Waiting on this launch, qualifying session 3. Have a listen to it. Look at the size of the exhaust in this.
Oh, there is nothing quite like the sound of a rotary engine at full noise. Lots of tyre smoke right off the start line. Really pedaling that thing and drops the chutes. Great run for Baghdadi, 6.99. But you can just see his chutes just caught the last timing block there. It brings up a 6.81 for Damien McKern, but that will not be allowed. Obviously, Baghdadi was way out in front. The chutes just caught it, and that affected his time.
You don't see that happen very often at all. Is the Mazfix Racing entry of Brad McElroy. Got to love the little Dado Ute.
Very nicely presented. The Mazfix Racing Ute running off a handicap 766. Another car that can run very deep into the 7-second zone, up over 170 miles per hour with this car. Very impressive piece of machinery.
The direct clutch service entry of Brad McElroy. 766 handicap. You're right, that thing is pristine. Beautifully turned out. Just got to love that big exhaust belching flame out before they even get started. This will be impressive. Third round of qualifying for Super Compact.
Another of the rotary-powered vehicles here. There is absolutely no shortage of them. And, of course, at this event, in the Factory Extreme exhibition class, the Pack Performance boys actually went world record, 6:47. So the rotary is really stepping up performance factor here.
Not much room in that wheel arch, is there? That thing is tubbed right out. There's a whole lot of wheel and rubber inside the arches. Let's see what he can do here. Lee's a line with a .09 light. Pretty solid run here so far. That looks good.
Yeah, it does. Plugging the gears the whole way through. May have just rolled off the throttle a little early. 795 though, on a 766 index. It's not going to do much for his qualifying position, but still 175 miles per hour. Just a great run.
The Prodat Racing entry. Very good effort. Right down the middle, left the line sweetly. It was crisp through the box. And That would have set him up very nicely, but unfortunately, as we know, the heavens would open. And Michael Baghdadi will be a 10-point leader after the 6th round. Rod Harvey in second, Scott Porter in third, Signorelli, Tongue, Rahayem, McKern and Bullions. And so Michael Baghdadi will lead by 10 points after the 6th round. Unfortunately, the disappointment of the rain out here at Willowbank has an effect on all this. Harvey is second, Scott Porter third, Signorelli in fourth, Po Tongue in fifth, George Rahayem in sixth, Damien McKern and Gina Bullions rounding out the field. Corey Buttigieg pioneered Harley-Davidson racing in many ways in the comp bike class, but why a Harley?
It's just a little motor. It revs a little bit harder than the bigger motors, and our class is on a weight brake. So we're a little bit lighter, less horsepower, less torque, but they seem to go a little bit better and a little bit more reliable. People are getting this combination now and stepping up into comp bike.
Because Corey has pretty well done most of the development on Harleys in the class, the other riders really reap the benefits.
Yeah, but we've done all that work for the other guys just to have the work done here now instead of running around to all these and finding out everything we had to sort out to get this thing running. So everyone's sort of got a package now. They can just go off this one and basically be competitive. And we're just lucky the thing's going quicker. Just then it went another PB under the national record and about, I think, 12 miles per hour over the mile per hour record in the last run. So it's all good. We're going quicker and quicker, and there's a lot more work we've got to do to it for tuning and clutch work, and we're just still testing.
There's rumours that after comp bike, he may well be headed to Top Fuel motorcycle.
I just want to run Top Fuel. Doesn't matter. I want to run Top Fuel. Well, it looks around April. We're doing all the course and schooling, and hopefully the bike will be here before that. So we'll see.
Time now for competition bike and plenty of things to be distracted by here at the Fuchs Winter Nationals. Hello, ladies. Paul Harrison has a 30-point lead as we come into competition bike after round 5 from Ross Smith, Corey Buttigieg, Corey Scholes, Glenn Northbridge, Jason Salmon, Peter Everett and Kevin Gumow. They are your top 8 in the championship proper thanks to Aeroflow and its comp bike highlights qualifying session number 2. Man, that thing looks like it could be just as much at home on Queensland Raceway, right opposite the paddock, as it is here on the quarter mile.
Yeah, there are a lot of no wheelie bar bikes in this class. It's the street bike class is getting more and more popular, and it really has come through over the last few years. That's Blair Pennington. This time around goes through for a 9.31. Robert Cassar, good run for him, 7.61. Bang on that index. Let's move on to the next pair now. It looks like Peter Everett on the big, long, extended wheelie bar.
Looks like a hill climber.
Swing arm, I should say. Yeah, wicked looking bike, that one.
And how long was that swing arm? It was like a hill climb bike.
Incredible. Harley Davidson time now.
The HD Destroyer bikes, of course, very impressive in comp bike. Oh, got some guard or bearing or something coming off on the side there.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. It's certainly not going to help matters as he goes through. Fortunately, it doesn't look like it's done too much damage. As you see, fans always enjoying the action at the Winter Nationals. It is always one of the biggest crowds of the year here at Willowbank.
And it's like a smorgasbord for drag racing fans. You get a bit of everything. As we see qualifying session number 3 lining up. Good sticky racetrack here at Willowbank Raceway. Great crowd in the house. And the third session, this is Brandon Gosbell aboard the Kawasaki ZXR, and it looks like a Hayabusa right alongside it. Kawasaki v Suzuki in this third round of qualifying.
Yeah, Glenn Northridge on the far lane from New South Wales, always a tough racer. Does a lot of racing in Sydney Dragway, does as many laps as he possibly can. That's what it's all about, is track time. You can see really slipping that clutch, getting that thing off the start line. Problems though for Gosbell, that thing way over near the centre line. Northridge will go through for a good clean run there. 8.77 on the 919 index. That's a huge, huge run for Northridge.
Just watching the problems, unfortunately, for the Hayabusa. And wow, big centre line run just then. The Hayabusa came back nicely towards the end. A little lazy on the light. Of course, it doesn't matter. It's not critical in terms of what time you leave the tree. It's qualifying, that is. The Joe Rocket leathers of Blair Pennington, the powerhouse dyno tuning entry, closest to camera, alongside the Kawasaki. We we get set to launch.
Jamie Prothero on the far side of the racetrack. Always. I mean, what other colour do you have at Kawasaki? It's got to be green, doesn't it?
Oh!
001 on the tree. Great light for Pennington. Legs it on through. Oh, these bikes are just incredible pieces of machinery. 937 on the boards for Pennington. He's under that index. Prothero goes 986 on 1026. That'll put him a long way up the qualifying order.
Nice wheel stand in the middle of the racetrack. It's not exactly what you need, but as you said, a spectacular light just then. Replay from both angles showing again this would have been a good drag race in an elimination sense for competition bike, the Aeroflow Performance Products Sportsman Drag Racing Championship, and this is what you get in comp bike. You get a bit of everything. Here is the ballistic drag racing entry.
It's Robert Cassar on that bike. It is, as you can see, a typical lay-down style bike. You get your sit-up style bikes of George Vella on the far side of the racetrack, pro stock motorcycle style bikes, top bikes. You got street bikes. You got just about everything in this class. That's what it's all about.
Vella and Cassar in the third round of qualifying for competition bike. Red light on the tree won't be critical. Not in the scheme of things here. Good little drag race. This would have been too. Both guys very, very handy. A 750 with a 9 on a 797 for Cassar. And Vella too goes under his dialing.
Yeah, way under the index for both races there. Good race. You can see Cassar was really fighting that thing in the middle of the racetrack. The front end just started dancing around. He rode that thing like a pro though. Goes through 750. Great run.
Brutal in terms of qualifying. There's one awfully big headlight on Kevin Williamson's Jazz Trailers entry. The lights ever go out, it won't be a problem for Kev. Plenty of glamour as always here at the Winter Nationals. Everybody loves the Winters. If you haven't been before, you need to lock it in for next year. Well, red light situation in the right-hand lane.
Yeah, David Butler in the far side of the racetrack. Goes through. Runs bang on the index, 910 on a 909. Probably not going to do him too many favours there, but a 912 on a 919 for Williamson. That'll move him up the qualifying order. That's what it's all about here. Remember, these guys running off their individual class indexes, the further they go under those class indexes, the higher up the qualifying order they're going to be, and as a result, potentially more points they're going to lose.
Those destroyers are a particularly effective weapon, aren't they? Straight out of the factory, the way they're basically race prepped. Joe Marshall, closest to camera here, on board the Suzuki. The Katana colours there, a little bit different. I've never seen one in purple colours, but very similar looking.
And Darren Schuster on the far side of the racetrack. Look at this thing go. Just hunkers down and legs it across the top end of the racetrack. Schuster, 855 on the 910. Marshall, problems for him with a 946. Didn't really get down the track too cleanly.
Schuster, half a second under. So certainly gone after it, and he'll be strong in eliminations.
Certainly will. Just a very, very quick motorcycle there. 164 miles per hour. No wheelie bar. That is a quick bike.
Rob Wasley looks like an astronaut. Very, very cool. Look at the body language in the furthest lane there as well.
Yeah, that is Ross Smith on the far side of the racetrack. 015 red light there. Not going to make too much of a difference. He was shaking his head just about the 1,000-foot mark there for Smith. I think he may have missed a shift point, but an 875, not a bad run, all things considered.
If he wasn't shaking his head, you have to wonder just how good the run could have been. If he was just that little bit happier with the performance, still got well inside.
Yeah, he really was beating up on himself there. He was more concentrated on shaking his head, I think, than getting the bike to the finish line, but still a good run nonetheless. Corey Buttigieg now. Very mean-looking carbon fibre helmet on this thing. Just a very, very tough motorcycle, this one.
One of the few sports or few situations in the world where you'll see a full-face helmet and a Harley-Davidson combined. The Geelong Harley entry. Oh, big wheel stand in that further lane.
Yeah, Peter Puznik on that bike. Really rode that thing through. Buttigieg, great run. How's that? 847 on a 909 index. That is huge. Puznik goes an 8 with all the 8s, 888. But, wow, Buttigieg, that's a long way under the index.
Puznik, considering he got the front wheel off the ground there and had to reassess the situation, it wasn't a bad run. It wasn't too far outside his mark either. But Corey looks like he's pumped for a big Winter Nationals.
And it looks like the final bike of this session will be Rowan Lind on a very interestingly configured motorcycle. When you have a look at it, it's like nothing you've ever seen before.
It's like a combination of about 4 different bikes. Quite a radical concept, very long in the swing arm as well. Let's see what Lynn can do.
Those big long swing arms really let them put all the horsepower to the ground. You can see you got the big turbo on one side, the intercooler on the other side, and it seems to work. 869, not a bad pass, but an 805 is the index. Little bit of work to do for Rowan Lynn.
What a radical rocket ship that thing is. Unfortunately, the rain fell down and ran out of eliminations, and unfortunately all we had was the points from qualifying. Paul Harrison will have a 10-point lead after round 6 from Ross Smith. Corey Buttigieg, sensational in that qualifying. He'll be kicking himself. Unfortunately, it ends prematurely for everyone here at the Winters. Stuart Bishop has been chasing a gold Christmas tree for some time. What's the major difference in his setup that separates him from the rest of the field?
It's just really the automatic gearbox. It's a little bit different. I don't run a clutch. So for those that don't understand, it's literally like an automatic gearbox in the car. Instead of having a manual gearbox and letting the clutch off, I've got an automatic, just stick it in drive and I let my finger off a button and change gears. And it helps with consistency. So the clutch is, you have to set the clutch up correctly every time. The automatic gearbox is simpler to do.
But are there any setbacks to using the auto gearbox setup?
Yeah, drivability. There's no real opportunity to rectify a wrong. So if you've got to get off the throttle halfway down the track, it's hard to get back on again. It doesn't really work that well. Thankfully, it hasn't been too much of a hiccup, and I've been able to gather it back. So in Perth, I had a couple of whoopsies and was able to gather it back up.
Bishop is limited to running only a few rounds per season. So does this take the pressure off performing consistently for championships?
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, I try not to worry too much about it. I come to have fun. And the crowds that come, the fans, the other guys that turn up from all over Australia, you know, that's what makes it fun. It's like one big happy family.
Time now to check out some door slammer action from the Fuchs Winter Nationals as Team Bray in various components gets assembled. Peter Kapiris has a healthy lead. It's a great battle for second, but man, Kapiris is G-O-N-E gone out in front at the moment. Zapier and V Bray in that second points battle. Mark Valeri after that strong result at the Nitros is in good form. The Castrol Edge girls, generally, you hear the word Castrol, you associate Team Bray along with them. Here is the door slammer highlights of qualifying right now. 4 sessions in total, Rusty Gregory.
Indeed it is. Mark Valeri, winner from the Nitro Champs, on screen at the moment, up against Stuart Bishop, a guy who has really been doing some good things this season. Side-by-side pass pretty much. Few problems for Valeri. Looks like he might have lifted the blower there, but a solid 5-second pass there for Stuart Bishop, 5.94.
Ben Bray looking for his first run. Of course, up against Murray O'Connor, who's really been firing some big guns. Oh, big wriggle for him just then. Both guys getting down fairly well. An ugly run for O'Connor, but Bray maybe starting to get back into some form.
Indeed, he seems to be getting there. Kapiris, that thing was loaded for there, just picks up the front wheels, carries it over the centre line as we have a look at qualifying highlights for session 2 now. And, well, we've got Stuart Bishop and Mark Valeri on screen again, matching up for the second time this weekend.
Yeah, and isn't that thing absolutely immaculate of Stuart Bishop? Okay, it hasn't got any sign writing pretty well at all, but the thing is just glistening. Valeri really got some confidence after a fantastic result at the Nitros at Western Sydney, and the Valeri boys would have to be feeling pretty confident coming into this.
Yeah, well, a 5.91, that's one way to boost your confidence. 5.93 again for Stuart Bishop. Good, solid, consistent runs, both guys in the field as it stands at the moment.
John Zapier to your left, Peter Kapiris, series leader to your right. Qualifying about to get a whole lot more spectacular. An ugly run for Kapiris, just keeps it off the centre. And look at this.
Wow, 5.75. That is under the national record for John Zapier. He has got that thing on a string. Peter Kapiris way out of shape, but John Zapier, he's there.
Well, in this car, anytime you can hold your foot flat from start to finish, or basically get through first gear full throttle, you know it's a low 80. But I had no idea it was a 75. It just all happened too quick, and watching where I'm going, I didn't think it was that quick. But, you know, and it felt quick, but I didn't even think 70. I just thought, oh, look, hopefully we've qualified and it's a low 80, you know, and 75 is like, woohoo!
He's a great character, is John Zappia. Recently went parachuting, skydiving. The bloke is always up for a new challenge, and you just know he wants to win the Winter Nationals. A stout crowd here checking out highlights of qualifying for Door Slammer. Peter Kapiris, what can he do? Can he extend that lead this weekend?
As it stands at the moment, he's outside the field, but this is a nice clean run. That should get him in, and it will. A 5.82. Have a go at the run for Marty Dack. 5.87. Another car in the 5.80s.
This is going to be such a great event, isn't it? Promises plenty. Zappia alongside O'Connor. A pair of West Aussies here. The West Coast Site Works entry. Geez, O'Connor, that looked lively early. It wandered to the centre line. Zappia right down the middle. That looks smoking.
Wow, 5.74, new national record. His previous run will back that up for the national record. The Zappia team are on fire this weekend.
Top Door Slammer is going off its proverbial head as we reflect on what has been an epic 3 rounds of qualifying so far. Russell Pavey looks like a single run for the United Tools Corvette. Everybody is talking about the Z-Man, John Zappia. Remarkable consistency.
Incredible, incredible. I mean, 5.70s, he is way out in front of the field this weekend. But that being said, these are very, very violent cars. It's not over till it's over, and anything can go on in Door Slammer. Russell Pavey on screen at the moment has had problems this weekend. They've had some problems with rocker arms with this car. Breaking rockers. He put a hole in a piston early on in the weekend. They missed an earlier qualifying session. He's outside the field. The bump spot at the moment is a 5.970.
Who would have thought the bump spot would be a 5.97? This category continues to go off. Pavey down the middle. Oh, 5.97 with a 4 at 392 k's an hour. You're going to tell me that's not in the show?
Misses the field by 4 thousandths of a second. That is heartbreaking.
That's absolutely brutal because there was nothing wrong with this run.
Absolutely not. They backed it down a little bit just to be safe and just miss out. You can see just hosing a little bit of stuff out of the breather there. But still a great run. He'll be looking forward to Slamfest later on in the month.
Grant O'Rourke. Something spectacular happens every time this guy shows up. Between his wife Debbie and Grant, this car is for sale. You can clearly see that. He's had some frightening moments. The big redback down the side, the O'Rourke Motorsport entry. All you need is AC/DC playing right now, and the picture is perfect.
He really is a character of the sport and been around for a long time now. I remember when he had his little Tirana many, many years ago. He was only a young fella, and he drove that thing like he stole it. Not much has changed.
What can O'Rourke do? Oh, man, to the centre line and well and truly over it. That is not going to help Grant O'Rourke to get in the show. He'll be a spectator at best. A 9.78 with a 4.
Just a bunch of tyre shake right off the start line. When we talk about tyre shake, it's where the tyre doesn't make a clean transition to the racetrack. It actually starts running over itself, and you can see there, lots of shake. You see the chatter marks on the racetrack can make the car do all sorts of weird things, like turn right really hard.
Thank goodness that was a solo run, because he would have been well and truly into his competitor's lane. Daniel Gregorini, the scratch and match entry. A lot of West Aussies in Door Slammer, isn't there?
Indeed there is. And I mean, they've had their issues as well this weekend.
That's the burnout.
Big burnout. But
Victor Bray would have tipped his hat on that one.
He would have been very happy with that. But Gregorini's had his problems. They did hurt a motor earlier on in the weekend. Big flash of flame in one of the earlier qualifying sessions. Looks like they've got it sorted now. We've seen him run deep into the fires. One guy who's already in the field with Stuart Bishop, been very, very consistent this weekend, running right down around that low 590 zone.
How can something with absolutely no sign running on it at all look so striking?
And the interesting thing about that car is that body is the way it came out of the mould. That is bare carbon fibre, not a sticker on the car. It looks spectacular.
Scratch and match motorsport entry of Gregorini trying to get himself in. As you said, the bump spot of 5.97. This would be a good drag race in eliminations. Bishop looking solid. Can Gregorini get himself in? Looks like a 6.03 with a 1 for Gregorini. He's out. Bishop runs a 5.88 with a 5. He'll take that.
Yeah, that'll move him up the field a little bit there. Great run on both sides of the racetrack. Nothing wrong with Gregorini. Looks like he may have had to pedal it at about the 3rd track mark. You can see the car just moved around a bit, but picture perfect pass for Bishop straight down the centre of the track, and it doesn't get much straighter than that for a door slammer.
Here is Ben Bray, the Sid Chrome 440 Pro Series entry, out on the racetrack. And don't they love the Brays here in Queensland? Oh, who am I kidding? They love them everywhere. Morris Fabietti comes into this with a big pocket full of confidence after some strong runs at the New South Wales titles recently at Wizard.
Yeah, did some testing at Sydney Dragway, came out, new crew chief on board, of course, Stuart Rowland. We know his exploits with Robin Judd over the past few years. Well, Morris Fabietti's managed to get a hold of his services and a 577 in testing, deep into the 570s, knocking on the door of the kind of performances that we've seen from John Zappia this weekend. All he's got to do is make it stick to the track here. Big ask.
Absolutely, when it's critical right now. Gonna love the teeth on the front of Benny's car. Can he take a big bite out of this qualifying run? The HoldenTradeClub.com.au. Monaro looks sweet, in rolls Benny.
New car in the works as well for Ben Bray. It will be a 70s model Corvette, just for something different.
Wow, Russell Pavey can tell him a bit about it. They share a fair bit of information and transport logistics with Russell. Here we go. Deep in the qualifying session we are for the door slammers at Fuchs Winter Nationals.
Well, a lot of tyre shake for Ben Bray, but he's got that thing straightened up. Good side-by-side race. It looks like Fabietti might have rolled the beams a little bit there. Ben Bray, 5.99, stripping the blower belt out of the thing. Lots of rubber coming off that, but a 6.14, it looked quicker. Yeah, you can see just roll the beams there for Fabietti, not what he would have wanted, and cost him a lot of ET.
And spare me if I'm wrong, but he did have that issue earlier in the year as well, so let's hope it's not rearing its head for Morris. It does creep on the line, and as you said, Benny, not necessarily what he wanted right there. The immaculate Valvoline Falcon here of Marty Dack alongside Mr. Queensland Tops Door Slammer Racing, Victor Bray, in that Sid Chrome 57 Chevy. The Cheese and Kisses waits for him to roll back, and she'll line him up as she has done thousands of times.
Well, Victor comes into this field, into this qualifying session, I should say, outside the field. It's a bit of an unfamiliar place. Haven't seen him there for the last season or so. He's been absolutely on fire, as we know, way up there in the points, but he's got no tough ask here against Marty Dack. We saw him go deep into the 580s in one round of qualifying earlier on.
Great looking car too, isn't it? The Illusion Valvoline entry. Nothing in it at the lights. Both guys leaving about the same time. Victor through the middle. Dack looks a little quicker, and Victor is going to stay outside the Winter Nationals house. A 6.02 is not good enough. Dack's 5.95 is stout, but Victor Bray will be gutted.
Yeah, it misses the field by the narrowest of margins. The car didn't really look like it left the line in a clean sort of fashion. Looks like it may have dropped the cylinder as well at half track. You saw lots of raw fuel coming out, and just not the weekend they would have wanted for that car.
Ben Bray looking solid, but unfortunately Victor going out as Andrew Sutton. Oh, that car just does it for me. I'm sorry. What a magnificent looking piece of work the Corvette is. Up alongside the Dodge Saratoga. No thanks, mate. We're working here. Somebody's got to. I'm always a fan of the Capiris team.
Well, Capiris has been around for a long, long time, and one of the really nice guys as well, the pit area. You go in there, talk to Peter. He's happy to tell you anything about the race car. There's no secrets, and he loves his fans. If you go down there and say you're a fan, well, Peter will be your friend for life.
What can Capiris do? He leads the championship as we come into the winters alongside the Sutton Auto Group out of the territory. Andrew Sutton in that wild-looking vet. Can anyone come up with another 5.7 something? Sutton is away sharply. Red light matters little for Capiris. He's coming strong through the middle. Capiris, 5.78. Another 5.7 here at the Winters.
Wow, 5.70s are cheap at the moment. 5.99 for Sutton. Looked like he was in reverse. Capiris just stormed home. Big speed as well, 252 miles per hour. That is a huge run for Peter Capiris.
Look at that, straight as an arrow. At least it looked that way from the rear. It wasn't that way from the front. Yeah, pretty well. She didn't wander much, did she?
No, not too much. Sutton had his hands full, though, over in the left-hand lane. That thing really moving around in the middle of the run. Murray O'Connor now in this Falcon. I love this car. Absolutely spectacular looking piece of machinery.
Well, this bloke has everybody's attention right now, doesn't he? John Zappia. remarkable when you think how long he's been around this game. And if you'd gone back 20 years ago and said to him, by the way, the 2013 Winter Nationals, you're going to be alive and kicking and you're going to run a 5.74.
Yeah, I don't think he would have believed you. I don't think he would have believed that he would have been in the 5s 20 years ago. But Murray O'Connor, another guy who's been running very consistently in the mid-580s, had a few problems this weekend. Actually broke the rear end in the car in one of the earlier qualifying sessions. When they broke the rear end, just quite nicely, cut the brake lines as well, and had a bit of trouble pulling it up, but he got around the bottom turn, but it was certainly a handful for him.
And he showed some really good car speed at the Nitros. Can he continue that form here? And what has Zap got? Oh no, had a double step at least once there. It's hosing, still bullet quick, a 5.84, and it wasn't his prettiest run.
Wow, it looked like he knocked a few nozzles off the top of the injector hat. Now, when I say the nozzles, I'm talking about the fuel nozzles on the top, very, very finely tuned. You can see right about here, mist coming up over the car. That's raw fuel that's not going into the engine. Probably did cost him a little bit of ET, but nonetheless, still a 5.84 consolidates that #1 qualifying spot.
He's certainly thrown a scare in amongst the field, hasn't he? Though Kapiris, to his credit, did come up with a 5.78 to respond. Zapier on the Sidchrome qualifying result ladder is certainly quickest with a 5.74. Kapiris, Dak, Bishop, O'Connor, Baleri, Bray and Fabietti. What a field.
To the Pit Report now, and John Zapier joins me. A national record. You've beaten your own record. Fantastic racing for you. Tell us about it.
Yeah, no, we've had a pretty good weekend other than the rain, but car went fast on Saturday, went 5.75, 2.51, and we thought, yeah, that's pretty good. Used up a bit of the track and a few minor adjustments and come back out and it went dead straight and it went 5.74. Look, we'll take it the way it is. We're just really happy that the Fuchs Striker Monaro is flying again. We're back on the form that we were here last year. And any day you can run a 5.70 is a good day.
Yes, he's always quietly spoken. Speaks very slowly, races extremely quickly. Peter Kapiris still, though, has a pretty handy lead over John Zapier from Victor Bray, Mark Baleri, Murray O'Connor, Ben Bray, Morris Fabietti and Stuart Bishop. But let's take a look at just Sidchrome low ETs. It's all Zapier and Kapiris, Rusty.
Yeah, Zapier, Kapiris, Zapier, Kapiris. I'm getting dizzy. I'm seeing all these names, but two guys have got an absolute mortgage on the quick ET.
A 5.74 with a 5 and a 5.74 with a 7. Remarkable stuff. Tragically, it rained out. Can you imagine how good eliminations would have been, Rusty?
It was the quickest field we've ever seen as far as the qualifying goes. Well, that's it. Unfortunately, the gods have said otherwise.
Next week, we'll be showing you more from the Fuchs Winter Nationals. In terms of qualifying, we look forward to seeing you then.
Oh, big moment for Luke Crowley.
Kapiris, 5.78. Zapier, right down the middle. That looks smoking.